Hi guys! Welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new legal advice content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled, "My landlady has changed the locks on my apartment and won't give me a key." It's pretty much exactly what the post says, but here's all of the details. I have been renting my apartment in California for the past 8 months. My lease is on a month-to-month basis. I have never been late on rent and was overall happy with my living arrangement. My landlady and I have had a very amicable relationship. She lives in a different city a few hours away and doesn't have an on-site property manager. There's only 5 small units in my complex, so there's really no need for an on-site manager. Once a month or so my landlady will come to town and check on the property and handle any complaints or concerns while she's in town. On November 3rd of this year, I texted my landlady and let her know that I was giving her my 30 days notice. I informed her that I would be out by the 1st of December and that I would slowly moving over the course of this month. She called me immediately after receiving the text and we discussed why I was moving. I'm moving in with my SO, and we need more space, and asked if there was any damage to the property. I let her know that there were some nail holes and chips in the paint and that I would make sure to fix all of this before turning in the keys. I did pay rent in full for the month of November. So, over the past week or two, I've been getting all of my furniture and belongings moved to my new house. I've gotten the old apartment pretty much empty, aside from a few end tables, my curtains, some vases and knick-knacks. I was in a mild car accident a few days ago and have just been overall exhausted from moving, so I didn't go to the apartment for 3 days. When I went to the apartment yesterday, I tried to enter and found that the locks had been changed. I couldn't get in. I called my landlady and she said that she did indeed change the locks, but if I called the real estate agent, he would make an appointment with me to get the rest of my belongings. I told her that I believed that was ridiculous. I was planning to clean the apartment and fix the nail holes and chipped paint in order to get my deposit returned, but that I would just be doing little bits here and there over the next week or so and that I shouldn't have to make an appointment every time I want into the apartment because I've paid the rent for the month and should still have access to it for the duration of the month. I asked her to either change the locks back or give me the new key so that I can enter the apartment as I please until the month is up. My landlady told me it is too expensive to change the locks again. She will not give me the new key, and that it doesn't matter if I clean and fix the nail holes or not because she's not giving me my deposit back. So, my question is, isn't all of this illegal? If I paid the rent for the month, shouldn't I be able to enter and exit the apartment as I please for the entirety of this month? Is there any way for me to get my deposit back? Should I just make an appointment to get the rest of my stuff and call it a day? If she's changed the locks already, should she at least return part of the rent money that I paid for this month? What are my rights in this situation? Update. I've contacted legal aid services in my city. I have an appointment for Monday morning. I also went to the apartment and called the police non-emergency number. The officer told me that it was a civil matter and that I needed to go through small claims court. I fully intend to pursue this as far as I need to in order get a pro-rated portion of my rent and possibly my deposit. I will continue to update as I get more info. Additional edit. I'm already able to stay at my new place, so there's no motel fees or anything. I have a place to sleep. I just think it's really unfair that I didn't get the chance to make repairs in order to get the deposit returned. I believe, at the very least, I'm owed a pro-rated portion of the rent from the day she changed the locks until November 30th. Edit 2. Landlady is stating that she posted a notice of entry. I never saw this notice and am not sure if she actually posted it or not. Either way, I don't believe a notice of entry allows her to change the locks. I sent her a text today letting her know that I would like all further contact to be via text or email. I'm trying to guarantee that I have clear evidence of all of our communication from here on out. The next story is titled, "My neighbors are making me unable to sell my house." This is a long, strange and frustrating story. I live in Connecticut where, many years ago, there was a lot of shared property in the small town where my house is. Shared driveways are common and covered under a law recently passed, but there is nothing governing shared physical edifices. My house is one of the only ones that still has a shared garage. There is a wall that separates my side from my neighbors. Our neighbors and I had always been friendly and had a great relationship. They were elderly and had lived in the house since the 1950s. I would shovel their driveway and walkway when it snowed, use my own ice melt on their sidewalk and pathways, check in on them after a bad storm or if the power went out, made sure they gift for Christmas and other holidays, and was generally an all-around good neighbor. They have grown kids as they are both well into old age. I decided to sell the house, found a buyer, made all repairs asked for by the assessor, but HUD requires that my neighbors and I sign off on a shared property maintenance agreement, agreeing that I will take care of upkeep and repairs on my side of the garage, and they will take care of the same on theirs. This is something we'd always agreed to in the past. At one point, we had repaired the roof of the garage together, splitting the cost. We had a closing date set for October 31st. This was the last piece of paperwork needed. The lenders wouldn't give the buyers their loan without that needed HUD agreement. In September we dropped off the agreement that was drawn up by our closing lawyer, who has done thousands of these types of closings. We never heard back. We had since moved, and the new buyers were prepping their move-in. So, we stopped by again, and the neighbors informed us they weren't signing anything. They stated, through their daughter, that they had been there for over 60 years and never needed to sign anything like this before and they weren't about to now. We were devastated to say the least. We tried to have our realtor go speak with them, they wouldn't answer the door. She sent them a nice letter, and called them, offering her assistance and they never replied. The closing lawyer called them to no avail. We sent a letter offering to pay for 1 hour of a lawyer's time, up to $300 a lawyer of their choosing to review the document with them. It included an offer for us to repaint their side of the garage on our dime. They ignored the offer/letter. I've called and have gotten hung up on. Their daughter has yelled at me through the phone that everyone advised her parents not to sign. We finally went to see them yesterday, and not only did they outright refuse to talk about the matter, their daughter was there with them, they refused to acknowledge the fact that I was there. They are, in essence, holding their hands up to their ears, or being told to do so by their daughter, and not paying any mind to this. The current buyers have moved in, after giving their landlord notice prior to closing and having nowhere else to go. They have a great rate that they are not willing to lose. They've tried other lenders, but the lenders all require this document. They've paid thousands to extend their contract with the mortgage company and for the assessor to keep coming out to review the property. I've done the same with lawyers and repairs. After all this, I'm wondering if I have any legal recourse against my neighbors for a loss of the money from the sale of the house and the funds I've spent to get to this point. Can I either serve them or sue them since their refusal is harming both myself and the buyers monetarily? I've given up on trying to get them to sign. The sale can't move on without their signatures, and the only reason I've gotten as to why they won't sign is because they never had to before. We've checked the town records and there is no way around the matter for the physical property. I've thought about tearing down my half as well, but wonder if a lawsuit can help finally bring them to at least acknowledge the documentation. Update. The lender and the closing attorney both state that even a conventional, non-FHA loan would be subject to the HUD provision. So, we are stuck either way. I'm looking at demo now, which per a lawyer and the town, is possible. I'm going to be applying for a permit. The town will then make the neighbors aware of my intent, which may bring them to the table. The next story is titled, "My Neighbor's Phone Went Missing. Neighbor Takes Accusatory Tone and Cops Show Up at My Door." Central Florida. As the title says, last night around 10:30 p.m. my doorbell rings. My neighbor across the street, visibly shaken, crying and saying she lost her phone and the last place it pinged was my house. We live across the street from each other in a ticky-tacky subdivision, if you catch my drift. I had a friend over visiting last night and he saw the whole thing happen. She initially said she left her driveway and that she remembered the phone being on the bonnet of her car. She's from the West Indies, I'm a New Yorker. I'm assuming she means hood. She took an accusatory tone like I stole or lifted it, and playing stupid like I picked it up and didn't know whose it was, so finders keepers kinda thing. I tell her I'm not sure about any phones, but I will go and look around the yard and street, maybe it just fell off her car when she was leaving the neighborhood or something. I go up and down the street with my flashlight looking in the gutters on the sides of the roads, sidewalk, etc. I'm just being a good neighbor, or so I thought. This morning at around 10 a.m. my neighbor and her husband, who I have known and lived across from for over 10 years, comes to my door. Husband starts off with, "Oh man, I thought we were friends and neighbors, etc. How is it you can just let someone take a cell phone like that?" I said that no one took his phone, and I searched all over for it last night, to no avail. He then accuses me and my friend who was visiting of conspiring to take the phone. When I told him who it was, a good friend who rented a room from us who stopped by to hang out and pick up some favors from our wedding recently, his tone kinda changed. He said, "Well, maybe he picked it up not knowing whose it was, and he's got it. Just tell him to bring it back." So I called my friend and left a message for him. I told my neighbors I would again search the area of my yard and the street around, but I didn't take it, nor would my friend, and I don't associate with individuals of poor character and integrity. He leaves and that was that. My friend calls back and I tell him the story and go back over and tell my neighbor that I talked to my friend, he didn't take it nor see it. I again said I'm sorry for their misfortune but can't really do anything otherwise. My neighbor talks about his series of unfortunate events, car crash that totaled their car, etc. And then tells me he's going on vacation and could I please keep an eye on his house. I tell him of course, as any good neighbor would do, shake his hand, wish him good luck and safe travels. 30 minutes later I've got 2 sheriffs at my door asking about the situation. I have pretty severe anxiety. My anxiety was keyed up just dealing with the neighbors over this mess twice now, and now I gotta deal with the cops? I again explained the situation, explained what they said, what my friend said, etc. At one point I put my hands in my pockets, apparently a no-no when talking to the police, as I was told not to put my hands in my pockets. This furthered my anxiety, while it's 90+ degrees out and sweat is pouring out of every gland in my body in rapid release. I eventually tell the deputies, who were both really nice gentlemen by the way, that I went back over to talk to my neighbor about it and how he said he was going out of town and to keep an eye on his house, which resulted in a chuckle out of one of the deputies. Eventually they thanked me for my time and said no one is accusing me of anything, but they're investigating the lost phone. They went back and talked to the neighbor, got in their car, sat there for a few minutes and then drove off. I guess my question is, should I be expecting another visit from them? Should I do something to possibly prepare to defend myself legally? He's saying it's a $1,000 phone, Galaxy 9 Note, no insurance. I'm afraid to leave the house now, just thinking they're gonna follow me or try and see if I did something to their phone. I have known them for a long time now and never had an issue until last night. I really don't want them thinking ill of me or my family or taking some sort of retaliatory action because they think I, or someone in my circle of friends, conspired with me to steal their phone. Any advice is appreciated. Update. Detective showed up today. The case has now been moved to them. They questioned my tenants and said the phone was last pinged in a completely opposite area of where the deputies told me on Monday. Detective seemed pretty genuine, and this seemed like a low-priority case to him, and he believes she may have dropped it as well. However, he said they were gonna review red light cameras from Sunday, and if they spotted my tenant's car in the area of the phone last being there, they're gonna bring them in. However, they were home the entire Sunday night. They didn't leave. The idiot neighbors are now on vacation. Hopefully that will be the last of it. The next story is titled, "My City Lied to My Title Company While in the Process of Buying a House." I bought a house in February of 2019 where my title company contacted the city prior to closing to confirm if there were any outstanding balances for the seller to pay prior to closing. They said no, there were no outstanding or pending charges. Just received a notice in Sept of 2020 stating the prior owner never paid $900 for sidewalk repair and I must pay for it. My title company says the insurance they place on closing does not cover a claim where a party lied. I threatened the city with a lawsuit stating I have a signed statement from the title company stating they confirmed there was nothing outstanding. They are not backing down. Do I have to get a lawyer to fight this? How can this be legal? Update. The title company said they would provide me a written statement that the city lied to them. After they would deny the claim that is. I threatened my city with the facts that years prior to selling the house they provided the previous owner letters saying that at some point in the future they would owe the city money. An amount was never mentioned. Also, that the title company would back me up in small claims court stating the city engaged in deceptive and manipulative practices. From this, the city dropped all charges and issued me an apology, in writing as I wouldn't accept it otherwise. Random note. I work as a bank auditor so I'm very accustomed to getting everything in writing or not accepting statements. One last random note. The city is already currently being sued in a class action lawsuit for $6 million from the residents. My guess is they don't want any more dirt about them in the news, weeks before the entire city council is up for re-election. The last story is titled, "Neighbor's Ex-Husband Lurking Outside My House." A man who I believe to be my neighbor's ex-husband has been lurking around outside our house lately. He sits in his car all day. I can't tell if it's idling because it's a hybrid, but I know it's not legal to idle in a car for hours on end in our state. When he sees my husband outside, he'll get out of his car and ask us, from the sidewalk, about our neighbor's comings and goings. I've personally never met the woman, and we aren't privy to her personal life. Then he'll start asking about the kids. They have 2 middle school age daughters who hang out in the backyard a lot, at least since coronavirus came along. I'm also in my yard a lot. Although we don't speak, they appear to be perfectly fine. Our response to the man's questions is I don't know. Because we don't know, and even if we did, it's nobody's business. I'm not going to help him spy on his ex-wife. Then he'll get back into his car and just sit there, which comes off as menacing. It's as if to say, if you don't tell me what I want to know, I'm going to sit in front of your house all night. Since the pandemic began, the ex-husband has called police to do a wellness check on his ex-wife's house 3 times. Only once did my neighbor answer the door. Cops have never broken down the door, and I presume that's because they don't believe they have a good enough reason to do so. This happened again last night. Should I contact the police and tell them what I know? I just really don't want this guy sitting on my street all day, bothering every person who goes in or out of my house. Update: I just spoke to police. They refused to send an officer out to take a statement from me. The cop said it sounded like the man was just there over a custody issue and that I should stay out of it. Thank you for your advice to call the police. It was also my instinct to do so, but the interaction was very disappointing, and it looks as though it failed to help my neighbor in any way. Thanks for listening.